Good morning, friends. First, I have to issue an update because sometimes I get things misconstrued in my head, and I'm not sure why I thought that Malaya already had a protection order out on Daniel, and I don't think that that's accurate. There's not a protection order out on her yet. Maybe I picked that up in live chat somewhere, excuse me. But I was over at Mike Demands last night snapping in chat because I'm assuming that there was a protection order for some reason, and I was saying that he was minimizing and some other things based upon that belief. So, I mean, actually, I don't know if there is or if there's not, but I'm going off of what Daniel says, saying that there's no protection order, no peace bond between them. So there was really no reason not to park next to her in the children's aid parking lot in that sense. That's why that conversation got started. So a little clarification for people out there today. Not that that matters any. Well, it does. It's important for my conscience because I don't like to spread nonsense. That wasn't my intention anyway. I was under a false assumption in that sense. Or I was just under an assumption. I assumed that he did. That's enough. You get where I'm going. Listen, we want to talk a bit about what came across the wire yesterday. By that I mean there's these texts from Daniel Martell's ex-girlfriend. Now, ex-girlfriend from when? I don't know. They dated for 2 months. Was this recently? I really, really would like to know that. Because I have a hard time believing that it was before Malaya was in the picture. But they really spilled the tea on Daniel, like what he was like behind the scenes, which, dude, it had to have been a setup. They set you up to do this. Like, why you would even fall for a honey trap like that is beyond me, but it wouldn't surprise me. I can't confirm anything, but it just seems a little bizarre that the dude is off dating some girl who's way far beyond out of his league in that sense. Number one. Listen. So from Justin's stream, I'm taking this information. I'm trying to get this skinny. I'm trying to communicate this to you so you get a good idea of what we're talking about and you can deal with the information. There's something to this information, okay? And there's a couple things. There's the issues with the ex-girlfriend, and there's Daniel's response, which is huge, talking about how the forensic psychologist team interviewed his 2 other children that he had from a previous marriage who allegedly say that he ABUSED Jack and Lily. Now that's fairly significant because this is coming from Daniel. Well, as you guys were telling me yesterday, we kind of figured that, but now that I've seen it, I posted it on my community page wall, by the way. It is a little blurry, but you get the idea. I want to read that to you. This is going to be Daniel sinking ship because what does it remind us of right away? In the process in which they captured Jacqueline and Trezell in the same sort of scenario. 2 kids going voluntarily walking away from a residence and no longer seen, vanished into thin air, just like Daniel Martell's situation. The nail in the coffin was the testimony of their very own children against them, proving to a jury that they were indeed lying to police. The only reason to lie to police in this circumstance is if you are indeed, covering up guilty knowledge. Heaven's sakes. So Justin's stream last night, a key focus is this leaked text message from Daniel stating the following. Now listen closely. Well, everything is not the best. Meta was going into CPS custody. Malaya is losing her. CPS also turned Arlo and Raina on me. They interrogated an 8 and a 6-year-old, and I guess they said ABUSED, Jack and Lily. What a effed up day. Now, Justin interpreted this as Daniel being angry that Arlo and Raina, his 2 children from a previous marriage, told Children's Aid about alleged ABUSE of Jack and Lily. The use of forensic psychologists to interview these children suggests the allegations were taken seriously and elicited in a controlled, professional manner. This text is damning. It's implying it significantly undermines Daniel's credibility here and suggests he may have ABUSED, the missing children. Now, to what extent? Did it just stop it physically, or did it go far beyond that? Maybe there was the reasoning. If it went far beyond physical and into something else, and maybe it was only one of the children, but the other one knew what was going on, obviously, and something happened to the one child, and old Danny boy wasn't willing to go down for that, and he knew that these children would be questions, and he would be, big trouble, both with the alleged ABUSE. We don't know. We don't have enough information yet. I'm just letting my mind wander into areas because there's all kinds of signs of that potentially as well. It's unnecessary to go into, but the question is, where does the abuse stop with Daniel? Now, breaking down this claim, which is interesting, very interesting. Justin over in his stream is referencing text messages from Daniel to his ex-girlfriend with whom he was in a relationship for about 2 months, where he allegedly expressed desires to grape, which is a euphemism, by the way, for another word, starting with R, and commit violent acts against her. Justin, supported by a psychologist named Dr. Vana from another panel, views these messages as evidence of Daniel's need for control and power. Is that the doctor from the Drunk Turkey show? Describing the psychology of someone with such fantasies as wanting their victim to be defenseless. This raises serious concerns about Daniel's mental state and potential dangers to others. Ladies, I'm not like that at all, by the way. What a freak. The ex-girlfriend's distress is highlighted with reports that she went to the hospital due to stress. Let me read that again. So this ex-girlfriend's distress is highlighted with reports that she went to the hospital, checked herself into the mental ward because of Daniel in the psych ward. 2 South. Oh my God, this is funny. I'm sorry that she went through this, of course, but hey, you lay with dogs, you're going to get fleas. What a setup that was. Daniel, you think this was a legitimate scenario after this? Was this after all of this came out? What the hell is going on in this room? The ex-girlfriend's distress is highlighted with reports that she went to the hospital due to stress, possibly exacerbated by Daniel's persistent contact, like texts, calls, and voicemails. Hello, honey. I was just thinking about you. I'm right outside your window right now. And online harassment by Daniel or his friend, potentially under a fake account. Yeah, oh boy, we've noticed. That aligns with all kinds of things. You can see them. Daniel and his little buddies under these sock accounts stand out like a sore thumb in comment sections. Like it's unlogically or illogically supporting arguments in a case like this. Only a complete idiot and a sociopath would take certain stances, and it just rhymes with what Daniel wants to say or what he would say, right? Anyway, these allegations against the allegations of abuse against Jack and Lily, combined with violent fantasies towards his ex-girlfriend, paint Daniel as a potentially dangerous individual with poor impulse control and a need for dominance. Mr. Helicopter Hands. Whoop, 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 whoop. Old helicopter hands. And then she's got another phrase or term for it, and stacking bricks. It's a different sort of motion. He was stacking bricks in that interview, as well as the helicopter hands, of course. The allegations against Jack and Lily, combined with violent fantasies, we got that. The creator expresses skepticism. That's Justin. Justin's skeptical about Daniel's ability to change, even with classes. Oh yeah, he's got to need some drying out in a cell for a little while. Justin's talking about he didn't think Daniel knows how to self-regulate himself, his behavior, his impulses, his urges. Give him a watermelon with a hole in it. Go stick it in a tree, Daniel. The text messages suggest Daniel is aware of the allegations against him and is frustrated by them, potentially confirming their validity by his defensive reaction. Oh yeah, the winds of shit have turned, friends. He can't wait to talk about it in an effort to stay in front of whatever is coming in this sense, so he can make sure that he can act and appear as innocent and propagate the people watching with, oh, be careful. These people have, violated my children and, planted false memories. They've been coached against me. They're turning them against me to falsely accuse me of something to do with whatever happened to Jack and Lily. Yeah, you're finally starting to get it, Daniel, because you are guilty, boy, and everybody knows it. How long are you going to carry on this charade for? So Justin shared some text messages. I'll have to go through and screenshot some more. So in this message here, it's indicating, I thought Meadow was already in CPS custody. But maybe he's talking about, they're not even, there's going to be no chance even fighting them in court to get custody back based off of what has come to light about you. Especially these damning allegations from your very own children, Daniel. That's going to be a game changer. And guess what? Those RCMP officers are building a case against you, sunshine. See, that's what that would be. Interesting comment from an audience member in Justin's chat, suggesting Malaya stayed at her grandmother's, Patty's, for days after Easter. And this is in 2025, April 20th, of course. And Jack reportedly said he didn't like Daniel just over a week before the disappearance. This hints at tension in the household, but lacks context. See, let me think about that. Well, Wade said Easter was the last time that they came to visit, which was just before they went missing. Interesting. Maybe Wade Paris's daughter is listening to Justin over in her chat. If you are, let me know. Hello to you. Leave me a message in the comments section. Just over a week before the disappearance, this hints at tension in the household, but it's lacking context. It's just coming from the chat. No need to take it out of context. Interesting, though, that somebody out there is talking as though they have some familial knowledge. And, it doesn't necessarily mean that Malaya is losing custody of anything. She's probably got the fear of God in her because somebody just unalived her two other children, and she's in a situation, I don't want to say too much for her, but we don't know. She's silent, which tells us all that something other occurred. Something else happened rather than the stories that they're coming out with. And here she's got such an ambiguous statement that she had help writing. It was anything but her own words, which is an issue. I just disregard her latest statement. It says nothing. If anything, she's appealing with these slogans to mothers everywhere to try to garner some sort of sympathy from someplace. So I'm not sure about the timing of this text message. I'm not overly suspicious. It's interesting, and along with developments in the case at this point in time, it gives me a glimmer of hope that there will be justice. The timing of the text message. Justin mentioned it was a while back, suggesting this predates the stream, but it's newly leaked in that sense, adding to the developments. The ex-girlfriend's hospitalization due to stress and ongoing harassment by Daniel or his friend highlights the broader impact of Daniel's behavior. Justin's conversation with her friend, almost like sisters, suggests access to insider information, lending credibility to these claims. So there's allegations of bruising with this photo, the one with her with a black eye, and questions about whether the ex-girlfriend faked injuries indicate ongoing debate about her credibility. I think though Justin leans towards believing that the bruises are real. So let me know in the comment section if you guys know when this girlfriend was actually dating Daniel. Or we'll use parentheses, because it wasn't really a date. They weren't interested in you romantically. So this mention of Jack not liking Daniel was reported by Patty, Malaya's grandmother, allegedly, just before the disappearance, suggesting a strained relationship, of course, possibly contributing to the events of May 2nd or late May 1st, between the hours of 9 and midnight. So why were the text messages leaked? The creator notes Justin, clutch them pearls, that Daniel and his ex-girlfriend were texting about 4 different people, they said, during a fight, leading to the leak. This suggests the messages were made public by somebody, possibly the ex-girlfriend or her friend, to expose Daniel's behavior. The public nature of the texts and the harassment of the ex-girlfriend indicate a volatile situation, with Daniel attempting to get ahead of negative publicity by controlling the narrative. Oh, that's nothing new here, though. That's been what's happening all along now, hasn't it? But it's a great observation. See, I don't believe that anymore, Justin. The RCMP's involvement in the cadaver dog sweep suggests serious investigation, but the lack of results, like no findings mentioned, indicate a stalled case. I don't think it's stalled at all. The creators, or Justin's hope that somebody fesses up, reflects frustration with the lack of progress. Remember in the Orrin and Orson West case, it was 14 months in that sense. We're only 4.5 months in. 5 months in, in some days. We've got a while to go yet before they accumulate even more information on Daniel, evidence against him, so that they can convince that jury of 12 without a shadow of a doubt that Daniel indeed has been lying to investigators, and there's a long storied history of physicality and domestics and ABUSE within that household and towards the children. You can go over to my community page and scroll down to You see that picture in the background of Trezell West. I first lay out the case in the top, and you can see the breakdown, the step-by-step process in a way that they accumulated and prosecuted Jacqueline and Trezell in the same scenario as Daniel and Malaya, in the circumstance with Jack and Lily Sullivan. But pinned in the comment section is the key testimony from the siblings that really sealed the deal, which is really going to do the same thing to Daniel, in my opinion, at this point in time. In Orrin and Orson West's case, the sibling, Jack, they had a larger family, of course, and some were fostered, some were biological, but they witnessed the death of one of the children, and they gave the testimony against them that were elicited by forensic psychologists. And it sounds a little bit like this. The sibling testimonies were a cornerstone of the prosecution's case against Trezell and Jacqueline West and the unaliving trial of Orrin and Orson West, as they provided critical circumstantial evidence suggesting the boys were unalived in September of 2020. The Wests had 4 other children, biological and adopted siblings of Orrin and Orson, who were interviewed by investigators, and their statements were pivotal in establishing the timeline and allegations of ABUSE. Below are the detailed aspects of the sibling testimonies based on available information from the investigation and trial. I had to make a little edit there, pardon me. The context of the sibling testimonies: the Wests had 6 children in their care at the time of the boys' reported disappearance on December 21st, 2020. Orrin 4 and Orson 3, and 4 other siblings, all under the age of 11, including an eldest son who was 12 at the time of the initial interviews. These siblings were either biological children of the Wests or adopted from foster care, like Orrin and Orson, originally named Classic and Sincere Pettis. The siblings lived with the Wests in Bakersfield until September 2020, when the family moved to California City. The testimonies were gathered primarily through interviews conducted by the Bakersfield Police Department and social workers shortly after the disappearance report, with follow-up interviews during the investigation. The eldest son's testimony, who was 12, referred to as the prosecution's star witness, provided the most detailed account during an interview on December 28, 2020 at the Jameson Center with BPD officer Brian Hansen and social worker Sonia Barton. He stated that Orrin died in September 2020 while the family lived in Bakersfield apartment. He reported hearing strange noises coming from Orrin's bed one night, after which he never saw Orrin again. He believed Orrin was unalived or passed away, based on these observations and the parents' behavior. He further claimed that Orson disappeared a few days later, during or shortly after the family's move to California City in September of 2020. He stated he had not seen either boy since the move, contradicting the West's claim that the boys vanished from their backyard in December. The boy described a pattern of alleged abuse towards Orrin and Orson, including physical discipline that was harsher than what other siblings experienced. He suggested the Wests treated the adopted boys differently, kind of like Jack and Lily, right, Daniel? Which prosecutors used to argue a motive tied to collecting foster care benefits, which were $35,000 to $42,000 annually. Other siblings' testimonies, the younger siblings, ages unspecified but under 11, were also interviewed and corroborated parts of the eldest son's account. They confirmed they had not seen Orrin or Orson since the family left Bakersfield in September of 2020. One sibling reportedly mentioned not seeing the boys at family events such as December 2020 birthday party, which aligned with other witness statements, like from the grandparents, who also noted the boys' absence. Some siblings described a household of dynamic where Orrin and Orson were disciplined more severely, though their accounts were less detailed than the eldest sons due to their younger ages and limited ability to articulate events. I'll skip ahead a little bit. So the impact on the verdict, the siblings' testimonies were instrumental in the jury's decision on May 19th, 2023 to convict Trezell and Jacqueline West on 5 of 7 counts, including second-degree unaliving in the involuntary manslaughter for Orrin's death and child cruelty for both boys. The jury found the eldest son's testimony particularly persuasive, as it provided a clear timeline that aligned with other evidence, like surveillance and family statements. The consistency of the younger siblings' claims about not seeing the boys further supported the prosecution's narrative that the Wests unalived the boys in September of 2020 and fabricated the disappearance in December. However, the jury deadlocked on 2 counts related to Orson, which was second degree, murder, and conspiracy, possibly due to less specific testimony about his death compared to Orrin's, indicating the siblings' accounts were stronger for Orrin's case. Yeah, Marley, I see your comments. For whatever reason, Google held them back in the filter, so I just approved them. So 10 hours ago, you're saying underneath that post of Daniel's leaked message, Meadow has been in CPS custody. It isn't about who gets custody of Meadow right now and who doesn't. It's about the res CPS and regular CPS, aka Children's Aid Society. Which system is she going to go through? Is it? I don't know right now anything about what they're going through on Meadow's side, so I'm wondering how you know that. Let me know how you know that. In 5 months since Jack and Lily suddenly vanished out of both Daniel and Malaya's non-care, I detect your sarcasm, the court isn't awarding custody of Meadow to either one right now. Yeah, without a doubt. Daniel's bio children making that claim against their dad, I believe them over Daniel any day. They didn't interrogate children of 6 and 8 years old. They possibly interviewed, but not interrogated. Yeah, no doubt. So what I'm gathering from this, Marley, is we knew about... Are you talking about this message particularly, or maybe time-wise coming from an earlier time, like when Malaya lost custody of Meadow and she got put into care a little while ago when that was all happening? It would have been the same time that he got this new fresh girlfriend and things, isn't it? And they dated for a couple months out of these 5 months that Jack and Lily were missing. Dude, this was a setup. Like, what the hell is that? Have you seen a picture of her? There's no way. Like, she's an attractive young girl. She's probably an actress working for the RCMP to get all kinds of circumstantial evidence on Daniel. And he's a slave to the glass dick. So he's going to be a slave to the punani. She probably just fanned her crotch a little bit your way like an 18th century hussy on the Old West. A lady of the night. Like a cartoon. Oh, boy. You know, I keep thinking about Wade Paris. And I keep thinking about the day that he says Daniel and his entire family came over and didn't say anything to them. Didn't even acknowledge them. Walked in their house like a bunch of zombies. And told them that they were there to search for Jack and Lily. And Daniel is aimlessly wandering around, making it look and appear as though he's a concerned parent, just avoiding, completely disorganized and detached from what he should be doing if he was taking charge of a situation. Because that would mean direction of all the emergency services as well, because you're the primary source of all of the information. You don't bail out on them and just let them do their thing and avoid them at all costs like you did. But he takes his family, all of the other people who are accessories after the fact now, and he's got his cell phone camera with the light on it. You know, the light on your camera? And he's sticking his camera in all of the culverts he can find, shining a light to see if Jack and Lily may be in there. Like, what would ever possess you to start doing that willy-nilly, like just out of nowhere? Because you're desperately reaching for things to make it look like you have like you're out there and actively concerned and panicking. Nobody panics like that. Sure, it might be. I'm not going to say that. We know this is an illegitimate situation. Malaya called the cops and you bailed out and you're pretending and want to be seen as actually searching for them. Oh, they've got to be around here somewhere. Dude, the amount of time you yourself spent searching would indicate exactly the narrative that you threw down to the RCMP, that the children voluntarily walked out. So therefore, they need to be found. They can't be too far. And all of the time and resources that got put into ruling that possibility out, now you want to appear as though you're in front of that narrative as well. You as a suspect can't do that, asshole. You're giving yourself away. Not to mention, an innocent person would certainly not act like that. If your kids were really missing, you've got all kinds of better things to do than running around random places searching with your mobile phone into different culverts and little 8-inch drainage ditches between the roads. Daniel, you don't even like Jack and Lily, Wade says. So that's even more bizarre. How do you account for that? All of the kids' biological family recognize you as a threat and a danger to them. And you're even your own kids now told police that you, ABUSE, Jack and Lily? And his immediate reaction is to accuse the RCMP of completely screwing things up and going and treating these kids as some sort of, second-class citizen rather than what they normally do, and take great precautionary care in the eyes of the law and bringing in and spending some money for forensic psychologists to question the children in a safe environment. Another good comment here. Whoops. Why do I keep doing that? Well, it was there. Hold on. Hey, Anita Benita, I like your comment here. But you're right. Listen. They want to portray the entire story just in the vague, inconsistent statements they gave that was in the documents issued for the warrants. That isn't representative of the investigation or what that looks like, and include any of the information they have in there with the case that they're building. It's a great reminder, and you need to remind us of that. There's so much more to this story, and we're 5 months in, and Daniel, as talkative as he is, refuses to acknowledge any part of the timeline from Wednesday, Thursday into Friday. 12 hours before the kids went missing, there's still no clear story as to what exactly they were doing, minute by minute, hour by hour. Happened 12. You don't even have to be accurate. At least put something in there as to what you did. So now he's refusing, and in saying that it was just a normal day, therefore was nothing worth remembering. Nothing in this circumstance is not going to fly, because you can't dismiss the fact that they're 24 hours in a day. And you're refusing to really give them anything other than what they had to pull from your digital, your technology in that sense, your mobile phones. And that only shows a couple of things to build around. There should be all kinds of information to corroborate your whereabouts and what you were doing. The more that you think about it, the more that you should recall. And you can fill in those timelines. From 12:01 to 2:15, I was this. From 2:16 to 4 o'clock, I was this. It's kind of like filling out your timesheet at work. You want to get paid, don't you? You want to get paid for your job. Well, you have to submit your hours and a lot to what the heck it was that you were doing. Do you have a work order number that you want to attribute to that? Do you have some sort of breakdown that we can, with a paper trail, track back and be accountable for those minutes and hours? Daniel refuses to own this, and he refuses to be accountable by not sharing any of the timeline. He utterly refuses, citing that it was just a normal day. See, it's a classic sign of deception, because everybody out there knows that there's 24 hours in a day. You keep wanting to come up with leads, but you refuse to come up with any sort of timeline for them to work with. There's a big difference between coming up with one that isn't 100% accurate. They're coming up with one that you can't quite remember, you're unclear, but you still come up with it. You sit down and you come up with it in the time. This has never, ever happened, which is a clear sign of, guarantee this guy's deceptive. He's refusing to put it together at all, because he's terrified of further accurate questioning. It's almost like asking for a lawyer in the moment. Only a lot worse. The lawyer wouldn't tell you to do that shit. What would the lawyer have told you to do in all of this, Daniel? He would have told you the first thing to do is shut your mouth. Because all of the things that you're doing right now can, and will be used against you in the court of law. You're going to find out what that means. Anita Benita says, love your videos, AB. Well, thank you, Anita. I love you. We won't allow the truth of Jack and Lily's lives to be lost with them. Their story deserves to be told, and those who contributed to how and what their home life was before they disappeared. It does matter because it directly contributed to them vanishing. Absolutely. Anyone who claims it is not, truly simply because it is not stated in the documents, is more foolish than the dumbass Daniel and Malaya. Just because those who actually knew about the ABUSE, the neglect and the rug use, avoid implicating themselves, doesn't make it any less true. Of course, they are going to deny it out of self-preservation, and they know to admit to how their precious lives where no one could give them the benefit of the doubt of Lily and Jack simply wandering off. Obviously, they are going to stick to their bogus story until law enforcement has enough evidence to charge them. If they honestly believe Lily and Jack were abducted but alive, their words and actions do not support that whatsoever. You're right. I feel like innocent parents would blame their self because they overslept or looked away for a minute, exactly, but a real parent would most definitely feel their mistakes is why their child was taken or no longer there. Exactly. They would be so remorseful, they wouldn't even want a camera anywhere around them. It wouldn't be anything. Daniel needs to be the exact opposite, a hero in all of this, because he thinks it's going to fool everybody. Isn't it disturbing to experience? Think about all of the people who are jumping to interact with this double child unaliver. Take a look what it really is in this circumstance. That's what gives me the worst feeling, that there's people out there that are so that they just refuse to recognize the actual evidence in the room and put that aside to befriend somebody like that in the moment. Anita goes on to say, if they honestly believe Lily and Jack were abducted but alive, their words and actions do not support that whatsoever. I feel like innocent parents would blame themselves because they overslept. We read that. Sorry, I got to catch up with myself. Malaya's family needs to tell her to stop flucking lying, F-L-U-C-K, that's a good one, and do that right thing for these babies. Absolutely. But again, what do you do with somebody? You can't rightfully start beating them into an admission and get a false confession in that sense. Like, how do you deal with somebody like your own child that you love but hate what they have done, who refuses to talk? You've just got to take it day by day. I know it looks so difficult, but my question is, what do you do in that situation? Of course, there's all kinds of people that need to tell you to deal with it one way or the other, but it's different to the person who is engaged in the relationship. Malaya has clammed up and she's not saying anything to anybody in her immediate. And what she does is going to be just ridiculous. It's going to be nothing that aligns with what really happened, I believe. I don't want to say too much because we don't know anything. She's enacted her rights in that sense. She doesn't want to speak. Except for that ridiculous letter yesterday. It was so disappointing. It's better you didn't say anything, Malaya, than put that disingenuous letter out. That's going to work against you. Anita says, Malaya ticked you off when she said that she loves her kids more than life itself. No, you don't, because if she did, she would not be silent. She would be searching. She would tell the RCMP exactly what happened, no matter the consequences she faced. This is a truism, Anita. That's why I like you. What kind of mother would rather be free living their life, knowing her kids are gone and thrown out like they are nothing of importance? I can't with these clowns. It really angers me to know that Jack and Lily's life before May 2nd, even now, that those who were responsible for the toxic, evil shithole they had to live in still can't love and respect them enough to do the right thing. Friends, let me know what you think about this new leaked text message in the comment section below. It'll give us something interesting to talk about for live later on. I appreciate you guys listening, and happy Thanksgiving Monday. See you later.